So I'm Andrew Mavor, and I produce original music. I build instruments, design sounds, and create audio content for lots of different contexts. Ape in Essence is my second upcoming album, and I'm going to talk today about some key points that I learned during the development of this large-scale artistic project. For me in the beginning, there's no real start to a large project like this. I write a lot of music, and when a certain number of ideas have a similar voice or feel, I can tell something is coming down the pipeline that needs to be developed. At the start, things that I feel may fit on an album might be fully realized tracks or simple riffs. The beginning is all about quantity over quality. Out of my raw ideas, I find the ones which work best, hit hard, and have staying power. Today's in sound is tomorrow's out sound, so you try and find things which best express what you want. You don't worry about being current, you just worry about being competent. You also need to learn when one idea is in fact two. As with any kind of artistic work, sometimes the complexity of an idea lends itself into being parceled off into two separate ideas. There's nothing wrong with this at all. I've done many versions of a single track just because there are certain things that are too good to lose, but perhaps are cluttered if they're all in one piece. Once you've got a glut of material to work with, I begin to cut things down from a large number to a smaller number. Perhaps you end up with like 8 tracks that have a great flow together. At that point, you may need to write more material with a specific sound to round out the project, or not. After that, you need to cut out the fat. If it doesn't belong or add to what you're doing, then it shouldn't be in there. In electronic music, at least, tracks are often about 6 minutes long or more. That can be a bit too much for maximum impact in an album context. So you need to kind of self-censor a lot. For this album, I decided to use a whiteboard for the first time, and it kind of helped. When you're dealing with a large body of work, there's a lot of things to do that you need to do in tandem with actually creating the material. So staying organized is kind of key in making it not take over your life. I broke down each of the tracks into 8 steps necessary for me to get them done. Some of these things were draft mix, final mix, personal master, remix parts, etc. This was a huge help and allowed me to stay ahead of my own ability to get sidetracked. When you can see what's missing, you always know what to do next. You also need to keep some easy wins around when you're doing something big like this. You shouldn't get distracted by them, but when things seem overwhelming, having a couple of quick tasks sitting about that you can knock off in an afternoon can be a great morale boost. Sometimes when you're juggling 50 balls, it's really nice to put 49 of them down and just be able to work with one. You also have to start thinking about the delivery of the project well in advance. Certain things can take like 3 or 4 months to actually organize, magazine press, getting stuff into iTunes and things like that. So you need to kind of start thinking about it pretty early. You also have to keep on going back to the beginning to make sure that as you progress things, everything is still relevant. Certain things that kind of fit at the start may not fit towards the end, and certain things that were minor additions at the start of the whole project might actually become much bigger ones. Don't be afraid of the workload either. For this album, I actually kind of built a lot of the instruments by hand that I ended up using. This was kind of masochistic and perhaps crazy, but it also kind of added to my enjoyment of the whole project. And that's where my notes stop. Wait, hold on. No, that really is where my notes stop. Okay, so this one is basically where you need to cut the umbilical cord. It's really hard to figure that out, but as you have a large number of things which all need to finish at the same time, as indicated by this slide, it's a lot easier if you know when to kind of, I guess, draw a line and declare something to be finished. It can be really hard to learn how to do that, but you need to learn how. What does that say? When the creation is done, the hard work begins. This is totally true. You need to actually get in touch with people in advance, get your stuff placed in magazines, get reviews done, things like this. That's not easy to do, and it's kind of a little annoying when you finish up a project and then have to go out and start marketing it because you just want it to go out and do some good in the world. You need to find key people that you can actually pass the project to. These people will end up kind of being your wailing walls. They're the ones that will give you reactions, tell you whether they appreciate it or not. And then out of that group of people, you need to find really special ones, like that yellow dude, who are going to give you really honest feedback and where you're willing to accept that feedback from them and not get freaked out by it. It's a lot easier if you know those people and if you trust them, and that feedback ends up actually really helping your project. What does that one say? Okay, so what you need to do at that point is basically take the quotes that you get back from people and fold it back into the stuff that you're sending out to people. Generally, I approach someone and say, wow, this guy had this to say about the project. They might review it just simply because of that. I take that, put it back into the sell sheet, which I then pass on to the next people. It's also really important to develop good content that people want to come to. It's all well and good to kind of spend your time trying to get an SEO optimized blog and a video with 50,000 hits, but at the end of the day, it's more about the content than anything else. Once you're done that, you need to just kind of let it loose out into the world and hope it does some good. Sweet.